feel like you've made some wrong turns in your life, don't throw in the towel yet. Don't throw in the towel, not just because I say so, but because a lot of things that will bring you true value, that will bring you significant rewards in your life, will never look like the right decision from the get-go. It will always look like you were dumb. It will always look like you were stupid. You would even second guess yourself. In fact, all the greatest decisions you make in your life, if you don't second guess yourself, it means those decisions are not valuable enough. What it means is not too much is at stake. Because if there is much at stake, you always second guess your decision. The wrong way, the right path. Hello, Gustav Achu here. Welcome back to the channel. You see, as you live along in life, if you haven't lived long enough, you will certainly get there, right? As you get going in life, you will realize that there are different points in your life when you look back at certain decisions and you feel like you made the wrong decision. Or you look at certain ventures you pursued, maybe an academic venture you pursued, or a business venture, or maybe even a career move you made, and you feel like, oh gosh, I wish I did it differently. Let me tell you, I want to talk to you today about why you shouldn't regret. Because sometimes, and just sometimes in life, the wrong turn might actually be the way.
What if you lost your job today? How long will you be able to hang on? Is your emergency fund able to give you 6 months of leeway? Or are you like most people who, if they lose their job, they are 1 month away from financial disaster? Listen, I know you're working hard. I know you show up every day, but it doesn't feel like anything is changing. You feel stuck. And the reason why you feel stuck is because most people earn more, but lifestyle inflation eats it up. No one ever taught you how to build wealth. Your income isn't the wealth. Your income is a seed. It might not create freedom if you don't duplicate it. But here is the good news. Here is what I want to tell you today. I have created the Paycheck to Prosperity Seminar, and I am inviting you to that seminar on Saturday, the 31st of May. For a small investment of $49, you will be able to learn how to take control of your income, how to duplicate that income, how to think and act like the 1%, the investors. You will learn some smart ways to earn more while keeping your 9-to-5 job, of course. How you can break free from depending solely on that paycheck. And finally, start building wealth that will outlive you. Additionally, for 3 days after the seminar, you will have access to the recording of that seminar. You will also receive a digital workbook to help you organize your thoughts and your actions and put you on the path to success. In addition to that, yours truly will be on the line and you'll be able to have a live question and answer session. If you're ready for that shift, don't hesitate. Click in the link below and go ahead and register for this life-changing seminar. I'll see you on the inside.
I know it sounds a little bit cliché and funny. I watched a movie not too long ago, and that movie was called Wrong Turn. And these guys were actually on an adventure in the wilderness, or at least in the forest area. And they made one wrong turn and they found themselves in a very difficult situation, and that catapulted into what the movie ended up being. But in this case, I want to tell you that if you feel like you've made some wrong turns in your life, don't throw in the towel yet. Don't throw in the towel, not just because I say so, but because a lot of things that will bring you true value, that will bring you significant rewards in your life, will never look like the right decision from the get-go. It will always look like you were dumb. It will always look like you were stupid. You would even second guess yourself. In fact, all the greatest decisions you make in your life, if you don't second guess yourself, it means those decisions are not valuable enough. What it means is not too much is at stake. Because if there is much at stake, you always second guess your decisions. It doesn't mean you won't keep going with them, but it means at different points you ask yourself, was this the right decision? And the reason why I say this is even more relevant in this time and age we live, because life is going very fast. Things are changing very fast. In fact, the same skills that have been able to bring you this far the last 10 years, I can guarantee you, you might need a separate set of skills to navigate and be successful in the next 10 years. Now think about it this way: the wrong way, the right path. Think about this. In the early 2000s, I know most of you listening to me are familiar with President Obama. And if you remember his campaign in the early 2000s as a state senator from the great state of Illinois, you remember when he started his presidential campaign, a great scandal broke out. The pastor of his church, who is a black man, Reverend Wright actually, came out and said some controversial statements. And so because you know the American environment is very race sensitive, and so that picked up flame and it became this major scandal. And President Obama was accused of being racist because he used to go to that church, that is his pastor. And so if the pastor is saying statements which are controversial and race inclined, it means by association, he might also be. Of course, that seemed like the wrong turn. That seemed like a complete devastation to his campaign. But you know what? He stood up and addressed the nation and talked about the reality of what it is that America is living in a famous speech called For a Perfect Union. It might have seemed like the wrong turn, but it was the right way. Now, I want you to also understand as you get along in life, there will be times when you look back at where you have come from. You look back at some of the sacrifices you have made to bring yourself to where you are, and you ask yourself, what was I doing? Why did I make these decisions? You need to understand hindsight is always 2020. What it means is when you look back at a lot of decisions you've made in your life, you might feel regretful, you might feel depressed, you might feel like you were stupid, you will feel like you didn't know much, but you know what? I believe that was the best decision you made at that time with the resources you have, knowing what you know. Because Maya Angelou said, do the best you can with what you have and what you know. And until you know more, then you do more. Until you know better, then you do better. Think about even somebody like Malcolm X. I read that story and it was very interesting. This guy actually went into prison in the early 50s and 60s as a guy with a 20/20 eyesight. But he came out of prison having lost his eyesight because he was reading under the very dim lights of candles and limited availability of lights. So he didn't lose his eyesight per se, but his eyesight diminished to the point where he started wearing glasses. Now he came out of jail with no longer the 20/20 eyesight, but with a clear vision. What does that really mean? That means sometimes you might have to lose your sight to gain your vision. Sometimes the things you think are the wrong way, or the direction that life might have taken you that you think is the wrong way or the wrong turn, ends up being the right way actually. Think about it for a second. I even think about my own life sitting and talking to you today. What I am doing now is not what I had always wanted to do for many years. I had thought about it, reminisced about it, but I really didn't start doing it until the wrong turn became the right way for me. Until I got fired from my job in corporate America and I asked myself, Gustav, what are you going to do about it? Are you just going to sit and wallow and complain, or you are going to dig deep inside you and find that one special gift that God has given you and work on it? It opened my vision to what is possible for me, even though I lost my sight at that time, which was my source of income consistently, which I had become addicted to and used to. And don't get me wrong, it's still very critical to have a job and keep a job. But what I'm trying to explain, what I'm talking about here, is that at different points in your life, you will have to make key decisions. And those decisions, at the time you are making them, 10 years from that point might be what will transform your life, might be what will deliver the promise on the destiny, on the vision and ambition you've always had for yourself. It's important to also understand that in this process, you would make sacrifices that at times might not make sense.
My new book, The Seeker. In this book, I poured my heart. It took me 12 years to write this book. In this book, I'm trying to help each and every one be able to become a better version of themselves, but not just by the cliche way, but being able to uncover their purpose, learn how to invest in themselves for self-growth, to invest in assets for profits, and to build a legacy in that process. This book has 11 chapters, deep information. It will be worth your time, worth every penny or dime you're going to spend on this. In the description section of the book, hey, you know what? Click on that description section. You will see a link where you can order your copy of the book. And if you order your copy of the book and you leave a message telling me you ordered your copy from this video, I am going to do one additional thing for you. I am going to sign that copy before they ship it out to you. Let's get into the video now.
I remember many years ago, I finished from the University of Berkeley as a young man, and I decided to venture on a business venture in Africa. So I left my family in the US and I went back to Africa doing business in Cameroon, Congo, Central Africa region there. And for 3 years, I pursued that venture with my heart, with my sweat, with my blood, with everything I had in me. And you know what? It ended up failing. But it's not only the fact that it failed, but it did cost me a lot in terms of time, in terms of lost effort, in terms of resources, right? Because I came back, relocated back to the US. Fortunately, I didn't move with my entire family. My wife and kids were still here. I moved back to the US. I foreclosed on my primary home. I had to foreclose on our rental property. I had to file for bankruptcy, and I paid tens of thousands of dollars to the bankruptcy court because of that one decision, right? So it might have seemed at that point when I was going through that painful situation, when my family was shopping in Goodwill, when we had to live on noodles, when we had to have a strict budget where we didn't have room for dinners and things like that, where I was working 4 jobs as a licensed practical nurse to recuperate and pay the bankruptcy court. It might have seemed like that was the wrong turn, right? But when I look back at those days, which is over a decade ago today, it was the right way. It might have seemed like the wrong turn, but it ended up being the right way. Because number one, it taught me a few very important skills that are skills that have been able to serve me in my life so far. It taught me about resilience, the ability to be steadfast, the ability to persevere, to hang in there, to deal with difficulty and to stretch. There's stress tolerance. It also taught me about the fact that sometimes in life, you can be up and at other times you can be down. But the most important thing is to find a way to not be too overly discouraged or too overly optimistic. The reason why is because life is in seasons, right? Another thing that you need to also understand is that when you are going through this period, when you are tempted to feel like you made the wrong decision in the past, like it was the wrong path you took, understand that everything you learned during that time can be leveraged for good. No knowledge is wasteful. No experience is wasteful. The only time it becomes wasteful if you haven't made a conscious decision to dig back into it and revive it and see what is the lessons you can pick from it and go forward. I have a great mentor of mine, Les Brown. He says there is never any losses in life. There are only lessons. So I want to encourage you that if you feel today like you made the wrong turn because 5 years ago you made a decision that might not be producing right now, understand that you still have another 5 years ahead of you. So make the decisions today with the knowledge you've gathered from the mistakes you've made, learn from that, and make decisions today that will propel you in 5 years to where you aspire to be. Right? The reason I say that is not only to impress upon you, but I also want to encourage you at this time, in this age, because we live in a time when things are going to be changing very fast. And the skill sets that are needed to be able to propel you and make you successful in the next 10 years might not be the skill set that you use to get to where you have been so far. So if you're smart enough, if you're intelligent enough, if you're obedient to your spirit and to the general environment of how life works, don't be hard on yourself. Understand that it could have been a wrong turn at that point, but it is actually the right way because you'll be heading in the direction of your dreams, you'll be heading in the direction of your purposes, you'll be heading in the directions of your destiny. So I don't know where you might have been born. I may never have a chance to meet you in person, but I always like to close up with this. I don't know who might have spoken upon your life, what circumstances or what people might have convinced your mind and your spirit to believe that you might not be smart enough, that you might not be intelligent enough, that you don't have it all together to become successful and to become highly achieving in this life. I want to tell you that was a lie. They try to deceive you into buying a lie because you are enough. You are capable. You are intelligent. You are strong. You are smart. And I believe very strongly that you were not singled out in this life to be a failure. The abundant grace of God flows on every human being born on this earth. I believe you have grace too that is upon you. And if you activate that grace, you don't regret too much about past decisions. You focus on the future. You focus on what lies ahead of you. You try to learn from the experiences you've had, which might be painful or joyful. But you try to use the experiences, use the learnings applied in your life. I really believe very strongly, without any iota of doubt in my mind, that I will see you at the top. But as you go out today, be well, be blessed, and never stop being a blessing to somebody, because you are enough. Until next time, it's your friend, Gustav, the Achu.